Fire Emblem Awakening. It is a controversial game that is both hailed as the savior and the downfall of the Fire Emblem franchise. Despite being loved by the general public, it was, and still remains, a contentious entry in the series. During its release, Awakening had split the fanbase into two distinct and stubborn groups, the Elitists and the Casuals, or as we called them back in the day, the Awakening babies. The Casuals enjoyed Awakening and what it brought, while the Elitists disliked the shift in focus of Awakening, citing the particularly one-note supporting cast, the use of an avatar, implementation of child characters, and the lackluster combat mechanics. However, times have changed, and these distinct groups have gradually broken down. As of making this video, Awakening was released over 8 years ago. Feel old yet? Now, this video is titled An Elitist Guide to Fire Emblem Awakening. But what does that mean? The definition of an elitist and a casual Fire Emblem player no longer has a set definition the way it did back in 2012. Therefore, for the purposes of this video, I will be referring to anybody who has played at least 3 Fire Emblem games as a veteran of the series. Extra points if you've played the Tellius or Japanese-only releases. This guide is meant for veterans of the series who have not played Awakening, have had limited exposure to it, or who wish to have a better experience. Now, before I begin, let me make a few things clear. This is all from my perspective and experience with the game. Awakening was not my first Fire Emblem game, it was my 5th. Also, this is not an objective analysis or comparison of Awakening. My goal is to help you enjoy the game for what I believe it is. So, where do we begin? Well, you only have to do one thing to enjoy Awakening. Change your mindset. Now, this may seem minor or arbitrary, but have you ever wondered why people who play Awakening as their first game have enjoyed it so much? It's because they approach the game with a blank mindset. They have never played a Fire Emblem game, therefore they come with little to no expectations. Now, us veterans of the series cannot approach the game the same way. Because we have played multiple installments of the series, we have an individual expectation of what we like in a Fire Emblem game. We develop a comparative mindset. We compare whatever Fire Emblem game we are playing against our own benchmarks. These benchmarks differ on an individual level, such as personal preferences, playstyles, and the player's core values. For example, I tend to value RPG elements of the series, such as story and characters, over strategic elements, such as combat mechanics and map design. Does that mean I don't care about gameplay? Of course not. It just means that my enjoyment of the game may be influenced more heavily by the characters rather than the maps. If you play through Awakening with a comparative mindset, you may or may not enjoy the game based on your personal benchmarks. Each person's subjective analysis of Awakening will differ. So what mindset does a veteran of the series have to adopt to enjoy this game? I think they need to approach the game as it was intended. A sandbox.
Whoa.
That's right. I believe that Fire Emblem Awakening was meant to be played as a sandbox. Although, let me back up. Many of you already know the story, but let's recap a little history. Fire Emblem sales were on the decline in the years leading up to Awakening. It was so bad that the entry preceding Awakening, New Mystery of the Emblem, received a Japan-exclusive release due to a perceived lack of interest in the West. Intelligent Systems was given a cutoff for the next Fire Emblem game. Sell 250,000 copies, or Fire Emblem as a series would be shelved. So, what did Intelligent Systems do? Did they try to innovate and create a strategic masterpiece? Did they sit back and create a half-baked Blazing Blade clone? No. They knew that this could be the last entry of a 22-year-long series. Instead, they did something insane. They created a game which aimed to represent and honor 12 Fire Emblem games spanning across 6 different continents, encompassing over 400 unique playable characters. Damn. So what do they include? Many mechanics featured in Awakening are callbacks to previous games. We see a GBA-style support system that is expanded and streamlined, skills harkening back to the Jugdral and Tellius series, a branched promotion system similar to that of Sacred Stones, child units who took inspiration from Genealogy of the Holy War, a modified reclassing system from Shadow Dragon, trainees from Sacred Stones, legendary weapons from literally every game in the series, reforging, an avatar that isn't constantly training or sucking off Marth, and an open map which doesn't force you to fight the same enemies every time you move a space. With all these features, you would expect the game to feel either cluttered or broken, yet many of these old features are integrated quite cleanly and tie many elements of the game together. Skills are based upon classes and are fairly balanced, with a few exceptions.
Soul's the best skill in the game, don't at me.
Child units fit the narrative of the story and contribute to the plot. They have a purpose for existing outside of extra characters or fan service while offering massive amounts of customization. Unlike Gaiden and Sacred Stones, the open map is designed in such a way that you choose how much you wish to interact with it. Now, before I get sent death threats, let me repeat myself. Awakening is a flawed game. There are numerous gameplay and story issues that plague the experience, some major ones being the 3 separate arcs, Robin having the most ridiculous growth rates in the entire series, pair-up mechanics, and open fields for maps. Anyway, back to the point. I believe Awakening is stuffed to the brim with features and customizability because it was meant to cater to all Fire Emblem players. People call Revelation the Sandbox of Fates, but I believe Awakening did it first, and for the entire franchise. Intelligent Systems knew that this could possibly be the final game of the series, so they created the ultimate do-it-yourself adventure, packed with every feature you can think of to honor and commemorate the past. Alright, now that we've addressed what Awakening was designed to do, let's go back to the change of mindset. To truly detach your comparative mindset and expectations for the game, I recommend playing Awakening as if it weren't a Fire Emblem game at all. Play the game as if it were an RPG focused around customization with elements and mechanics similar to those of Fire Emblem. Honestly, I think you may enjoy it a lot more. If you don't enjoy the RPG genre in general, then Awakening, as well as a large slew of other Fire Emblem titles, are probably not your games. But for everyone else who enjoys Fire Emblem and the RPG franchise as a whole, I hope that this subtle change can make Awakening a little more enjoyable. I like to imagine that the first time you boot up Fire Emblem Awakening, a small, humble message appears on the screen. It reads, "Hello player, thank you for choosing Fire Emblem Awakening. If this is your first Fire Emblem game, welcome to the series. We hope you will enjoy our games and our community. If you are a fan of the series, thank you for your support and love for Fire Emblem. The past 22 years have been defined by your dedication. We hope you enjoy Fire Emblem Awakening and join us for whatever future lies ahead. Sincerely, Intelligent Systems." Fire Emblem Awakening is not the best game in the series, but it sure is a beautiful one. Despite what your opinions are of the game, and if I've changed them at all, I do hope that the community as a whole learns to respect the game for what it attempted to do and for what it did do. It summarized and commemorated a 22-year-long series that we all love. Awakening is my favorite game today, but it may not be tomorrow. But that doesn't change the love that I feel for this true masterpiece. I'm Alduin, and I'm out.